Welcome to my second video, the introduction to Meditate to Resolve Suffering. In this series, suffering is dealing with drugs, alcohol, and computer addictions. It's dealing with addictions. To understand to meditate is a very actually complex process. But the benefits you can get out of it and the range of experience is unequal to resolve or to address impulses and other negative aspects of your life. How to understand what I'm saying is that you have to look at the words I'm using and understand the context and meaning for purpose that I'm developing. For example, these are the major words. You have meditate, that's outside. But the three characteristics, essence to meditate, are very, that's the physical aspect. It's very hard to really get involved. And they are, one, the mind, the head area of the body. The next is the body. And next is breath. But breath has a context of two other words, energy and spirit. Understanding breath is a key element to understanding the power of meditation to alter addictive personalities, to be changed from a negative to a positive. This is a process of using the breath and to really understanding the value of the breath. Now, when I say you have to understand these words, don't think you have a definition of the words, because the way I want the definition to mean is very dictionary, but at the same time very applied to meditate the way I see it, so you can get the experience. To meditate is an experience. It is so altering in the sense that you center on yourself to realize yourself within the world of distraction. You don't define yourself. You define yourself from a point of view of a sensation of your breath to facilitate the physical and the mental. Now, this is the second video for introduction. I'm expanding because you've got to understand, break this down. I'm trying to make it more distilled, more separate, because these are the words that you really have to process, and don't try to understand. I will give a meaning in relationship to purpose. One is mind. What is the mind? How does it work? What does encompasses involve? Two is the physical. Now the physical is your body. That's where you get a lot of pain, and that's where your energy comes from. That's where your emotions are stored. And breath. Breath is energy and spirit, and I have to validate all this so you can use it within meditating. The act of meditating itself focuses on the breath really heavily, and everything else follows from that, from the mind and the body involved. Now, the other words you're going to have to understand with this whole program to see it for what it is, to help aid you to alter your negative state you're in, is resolve and suffering. That word suffering is a big one. We'll get into that later. But right now, I want to really focus on one single word, breath, and to make you appreciate the value and how hard and what it does. This is still part of the introduction and how it connects to the other. Two internal forces within meditating, and that is mind and body. Now, understanding the mind, what is the function of the mind? I use the word function of the mind, and the way it's applied from an energy point of view, it directs energy and consumes energy, but never produces energy. The mind, the brain, never produces energy. That's the body's function. So really understand the separation and the parts that you have to bring together in meditating. That's the key element for for what purpose you're striving for is to relieve suffering related to drugs and compulsive to computer. That's what this whole approach is about, to bring into focus. So understanding. Now, breath. There's a great story in Hinduism. It's wisdom about the breath. And the way they try to focus and bring people into the breath is this story. When humans became aware of their senses, and in Hinduism there's 6 senses. Western says 5. I agree with the 6. And basically what happened was all these senses come aware of themselves, and they decide which one is the most important, which one should lead the others, what's the hierarchy. So they had a meeting, and here's this meeting hall, and all the senses are there, and each sense got up there to talk. Eyes got up there and said, see, you need to see the beauty, what it does. Smell all the aromas of fragrances and how it delights you and sends you into another realm. Taste, the vibrance of taste, the food you can eat, and the absolute calming it can create. About hearing, oh, great sounds, music, involved. What does it put you? So all these senses. And now the 6th sense is the mind. Dreaming, the ability to form images. You can dream about everything. So here's these all, and then the body is physical sensations. The pleasure. Pleasure comes through the body. So here's the body says the pleasure state should rule the other senses. Then all of a sudden, in the back of the room, breath is, I want to talk. And breath, willing, see-through things, and all the other senses just look at, hey, what's this? Gets up to the stage and says, I want to be the number one to rule all the senses. And all of a sudden, laughter burst out in the stadium. What? We see through you. You're nothing. You're not even a sense. And you want to rule us? Now, poor breath just felt bad and started leaving. Now, remember, when your breath feels bad, you're bad. It started leaving. As it was leaving, all the senses came weak, started dying down, lower and lower. And they called back, come on, come back. And breath is part of energy, part of enhancing all your senses, your visual, your thinking, your imagination, your tastes, your sensory pleasures of your body. These are all amplified, exist. In fact, I put it this more simply, is you're born on an inhale and you expire on an exhale. The breath is the center of all of meditation, of life itself in relationship to how you express yourself. You cannot talk without exhaling. Put that way. So how you breathe in relationship to exhale to the emotional context. You're angry, you'll breathe one way. When you're happy, you'll breathe another way. So those are ranges of possibilities. Sad, you'll breathe another way. Alter your breath. It affects all your senses, your mental, involve your physical. That's what meditating does. It brings these elements, the mind, the body, the breath, into focus. And the power it can create from that, in relevant to the word meditation, which is the form that has a purpose. That's the mental side. That's the verb, meditation. To meditate is a noun. No, my mistake, I got it reversed. Meditation is the noun, meditating is the verb. It is the action involved. So really understand the breath in this second introduction involved in relationship to the mind and body. When we get into the mind, and what is the mind, and what does it do, how does it work, and how do you work it within the meditating process to change the dynamics of your personality now. Meditating can actually alter so much. There's so many ways. And understanding who you are. If you're depressed, if you're overexcited, how to calm down, when you're calming down. Remember, all excitement is a focus process. You're focusing on something. It narrows your range of sensory. When you're calm, you can open it up and select what you're thinking. So really understanding this whole approach of why should you meditate, then how to meditate comes into play by using the three things: mind, body, breath, spirit, and energy. Within meditating, you move your energy. You have energy. It's in the Eastern concepts, it's called Qi, Q-I, or Chi, C-H-I. Those are concepts within the realm of Eastern, health. Eastern health, Eastern way of seeing internal force. Western is more external, what's impede you outside, inside yourself. Eastern says, well, what you can do inside yourself to affect outside. You put the two together and they're both right. It's just that one focus is more than the other involved. I'm going to blend the two together. I'm going to show you how you can have techniques to alter, to really get yourself in another state so you do not have to do drugs, alcohol. How do you recover? It's just not about recovering or stopping drugs. Then you have to recover yourself. There's a whole price you pay. I always like when I dug myself a hole. I did a fad or something. I dug myself a hole, and now I have to dig myself out of it. I just don't want to stay there. I got to dig myself out of it and move on. So basically, I'm trying to bring all this together using a technique of understanding what is meditating to resolve suffering. The word suffering, the word resolving, and the word meditating, to meditate, are very clear. And my goal is simply, if you learn how to do these things, it's a tool. It's a mental focus discipline. It's a discipline tool that you can use to enhance your life in a more positive way. You can see the value of life. You get out of depression involved. You alter your health through this because you're dealing with energy involved. There's a lot here, and I'm trying to bring it through this introduction process. And each one of the videos will have something, a new element to it for you to do, to understand and do, to bring you closer to how to resolve suffering through meditating. This is my second video introduction. This is focusing on the word breath. Remember, all these words I'm using, I have to give you very specific definitions. There you got the general, look them up. Please look all these definitions up in Google. They say define meditating, define meditate, define breath even, define Qi, define Chi. All these definitions will help you to advance the idea that you have the power. This is internal power. This is your force. This is the ability through discipline. And believe it or not, a lot of people do meditate on things when you do a math problem. You're thinking about one thing to achieve a goal. Now you're applying that whole idea of solving a math problem in another way. That's all. It's not a matter of trying to introduce something that we don't do. In fact, it is an amplification and redirection of what we all do. What is an addiction? A compulsive behavior that we have to jump on to relieve stress. And that word stress, I'm really going to go into that one. That's my specialty. What is stress and how to change it, alter it, and become calm. The first thing you always have to do when you're in stress is learn how to become calm. That word calm is a very dynamic word and hard to do, involved. So that I'm gonna go really heavy into the word calm, joy, and happiness, and the three negatives, and that comes later. There that forms, and how do you change? That's the key element, and there's a number of ways. I'm going to give you several selections, what they do, what's their strength, what's their limitations involved. It's just not one way. You have to create what works for you. It's like stages. Everyone will have a different stage. Everyone will have it because you're unique. Everyone's unique. Two, the idea of male suffering and female suffering. I will address that. Meditating, to learn meditate as a female to achieve something, and meditate for males is different. Even females, when they're taking drugs or alcohol, they have a different personality, a different relationship to the drug and being in a state of alcohol than men do involved. There's similarities, but how can I say, what they do with it is very different. So I'm trying to cover a lot of range, but focus on this. Each of these words you have to learn from a dictionary point and the way I use it to help you get the experience. It's an experience process to meditate. That's the key element. And what you meditate on, that's within the context of meditation, which is the noun, to do the verb, to resolve, that word, resolve, and suffering. Like I said, these are not simple. They're disciplinary process. It's like learning a math process. What each character or a symbol or number represents within a formula. That's how I view this process. And the more you understand it, the more choices you have. I want to give you more choices, a way of getting out of your suffering. You might get into other suffering, but you're going to get it changes suffering. That's all. And suffering is not totally bad. It really is. It's an inspiration at times. It can be an inspiration to find a solution. It's a challenge. Suffering is a challenge. It's a challenge in life. And how you learn it, do it, it's normal. It's been all through history, and people have created great ideas from suffering and great work, and they suffered to do it. Just appreciate your life in a more dynamic way is this whole video series, because it's just, I'm old, and I'm bringing together 7 decades of basically learning, understanding, and coming to this point in time in life. I'm trying to expand because I've had challenges, difficulties, suffering, large range, huge range of that in my life. And here I am, and I'm standing before you, and I see what works and I see what hasn't worked in the fads of our culture, of our time. That's all. And it's needless suffering. You know, there's suffering that's good and suffering that's needless. And drug use and compulsive behavior in the computer, pornography basically, is a waste of time. Value time. Time cannot be replaced. Economics says that you can replace everything in economics except time. Time is money in our culture. Time does this, time to do that. Time is an interesting word. It's a cultural word even. Really appreciate your time, because we all are limited in time. What do you create within the time? I don't want to say this, but I refer, well, you got 1 hour to do that test, and after that we'll score you up. That's it. But each of us do not know how much time we have. That's the beauty and the tension and the compulsive. Make every day something. And it's hard. I have one of the great sins that's in the Christian faith. It is, and you know, it exists in all. It's sloth at times. I sloth off. I don't do what I should do. I distract myself. That's what compulsive does. It kills time involved. Then you exhaust yourself. Okay, I exhaust myself. And I start over again when I get rested and do it again. Sloth is one of the hardest things to overcome, to understand the word sloth and then to recognize it in yourself and then deal with it. Meditating can help you there. It's a tool, it's a discipline, it's a focus. People that don't have very much sloth, I can think of a number, they just keep moving, creating, thinking involved. That's one thing. But there's another sloth that we have to deal with, our mortality. That's it. So this is about an introduction to, I hope you enjoy. I will be back with more on meditation, those words, resolve, and suffering. I hope you have a very good afternoon, and